Hello and welcome to Bounding Into Comics. My name is John Trent. I'm the founder and editor-in-chief at Bounding Into Comics. And today, I'm going to be reviewing Loki Season 1, Episode 1, Glorious Purpose. Before we get to the review, I'd like to ask you to please hit that subscribe button if you are not already subscribed. If you are already subscribed, please make sure you are still subscribed. YouTube likes to unsubscribe you for some reason. And then hopefully by the end of this video, you will have enjoyed the review, you will give it a like, and then you will share it with your friends and family. So let's get into this review of Loki Season 1, Episode 1, Glorious Purpose. Loki returns to the Marvel Cinematic Universe after his grisly death at the hands of Thanos in Avengers Infinity War in a brand new Disney Plus series aptly titled Loki. The first episode, titled Glorious Purpose, takes us back to Avengers Endgame, where Loki is able to escape from Avengers custody. From there, Loki ends up getting arrested by the Time Variance Authority, the TVA, and the show delves heavy into exposition, eschewing any kind of action other than primarily flashbacks from previous Marvel Cinematic Universe films. At points, the show bogs itself down in the exposition, repeating itself quite often to make sure viewers understand what the Time Variance Authority is all about and what kind of situation Loki finds himself in. It can be tedious and boring, and you might catch yourself wondering if there is something better you can or should be doing rather than watching the show. Not only are parts of the show outright boring, but one of the main bits of humor in the beginning of the show to try and make the exposition less tedious is a recycled gag from Thor Ragnarok when Doctor Strange had a little fun with Loki in the very beginning of that film. Another bit of humor also appeared to be a reference to Dread and its use of the drug slow-mo. That one was actually quite interesting, and they expanded on it throughout the episode. In fact, I'd say it was probably the funniest part of the episode. They have this little time warp device that they use throughout the episode, and there's this one part where Loki actually gets control of it, and it's quite funny. There are a couple other little gags that do lighten the tedious of the exposition as well. As for the exposition itself, it doesn't really make sense in the context of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, especially given what we know from the Doctor Strange film. The TVA claims to be the divine arbiters of the universe, and their goal is to ensure a multiversal war cannot take place by ensuring there is only one sacred timeline. Because previously there had been a multiversal war with lots of competing timelines. And so the timekeepers, these three timekeepers, decided to put a stop to that war and create one sacred timeline, eliminating all of the other timelines. This appears to contradict Doctor Strange that told us the main Marvel universe was one of an infinite number with, quote, worlds without end. It's possible there could be infinite universes within one timeline, but despite all the exposition the show gives us, and there's a lot, I mean, there really is a lot, it doesn't actually address this issue, which was one of the biggest questions from Avengers Endgame. Hopefully, we might get an answer to that, but given the fact that we got so much exposition in this episode and didn't get an answer to it, I find it unlikely that we will be as the show progresses. While the exposition can be tedious and boring, Hiddleston's acting and the dialogue he's given does lighten the load significantly, especially for the first half of the episode. The wordplay he uses is top-notch as he tries to worm his way out of the custody of the TVA while also ascertaining what and who they are. However, there's a point where the quality of the dialogue goes downhill, and it's in a back and forth with Owen Wilson's character Mobius. About halfway through the conversation, Loki's words feel out of place, and much of it is out of character. They try to explain this away by Loki going through a process of self-realization over about what I would probably say an hour in the show's time. It was probably like 5 minutes of you watching it. It feels cheap, and it doesn't really capture who Loki is or was before Thor: The Dark World and Thor: Ragnarok. And to make that self-realization that Loki has worse, there's a twist at the end of the episode that throws the entire self-realization to the wind, so it was almost like that self-realization was pointless. The show didn't show many signs of wokeness, but there was one big red flag, and it's at the end of the trials of this. There's this trial scene when Owen Wilson's Mobius tells Agugu Mbatha Raw's Ravonna Renslayer, quote, "I feel like I'm always looking up to you. I like it. It's appropriate." Now, there could be context missing from this episode that explains that line, but as it stands, that context was not given, and it was super cringy. As for Wilson's acting, it is what you would expect. He acted like Owen Wilson does. His portrayal was very similar to his work in Wedding Crashers. The visuals for the show weren't anything spectacular. There was one shot that they lingered on of the TVA that was pretty spectacular. It's basically showing this cityscape. That was actually really cool. Other than that, it was standard fare, and I did like the special effects with the time warp device. I thought that was done really well, but for the most part, it wasn't really that impressive to me. The second half of the episode also felt chopped up. I felt like a lot was left on the cutting room floor, and that could attest to the dialogue for Loki going downhill and why the self-realization didn't really click with me while it felt out of character. I just didn't feel like there was enough there to really convince me that he had this self-realization, and it really felt out of character to me. But overall, Glorious Purpose is an average episode. Much of the episode is bogged down in exposition, although there are bright moments with Hiddleston's acting and dialogue. And the use of the time warp device provides the best moment of the show. I think the show definitely has promise with the twist at the end, but there was also that major woke red flag. Overall, I give this show a 5 out of 10. It was average. Let me know what you thought about Loki in the comments below. My name is John Trent, and you've been watching Bounding into Comics.